Hey everybody, welcome to this small tutorial on how to process night skies and make your images pop. I'm very excited to work with our friends over at Custom SLR to bring you these series of short tutorials on processing techniques within Lightroom to make your images appear special and take your image to that potential that it really has. So let's start right away. So I am right now looking at this pretty decent photograph of the Milky Way that I photographed at Hurricane Ridge in Washington State. I shot this with the D3S at ISO 1600 and f2 with the 35mm lens, as it's all nicely put down here. If you don't see this information, all you need to do is hit Command I, and well, if I hit it right now, it'll go away. But if you hit Command I, you can always see all your EXIF information about your photograph. All right, so now that we know that, so now when I look at this shot, I think it's a pretty decent shot, but I see that there are these nice green lit areas and a little bit of orange here and a nice gradation to the blues up there. And I also see that right here at the bottom, there is a fair bit of information that can be extracted from these mountains. So keeping that in mind, let me first go ahead and process this photo from a sky point of view. I'll work on the mountains a little bit later, but right now my concern is just the skies. So let me go ahead and start my quick processing for the sky. So any kind of image that's got a lot of dots and scratches and texture, well, in this case we don't have much texture. It's more about the stars, which kind of is in a way like texture, because these are like highly irregular noise-like patterns there. So I'm going to go ahead and make these patterns stand out a little more, and you can generally do that by playing with contrast and with the clarity setting in Lightroom. So I'm going to bump up my contrast a little bit, so that makes the whites more white and the darks more dark. And I'm going to go ahead and bump up the clarity. And if you note, bumping up the clarity kind of really made the stars and the sky kind of pop, and I really like that. But a general mistake that I see everybody do is they get carried away. In fact, I myself have gotten carried away before, and we bump up clarity all the way, and it kind of gives a kind of look, a particular look that a lot of people might like. But there's one thing in particular when you do that I don't like, which you'd never see in nature, is this glow, is this, you know, the slight haloing that happens around sharp edges, especially horizons in places where mountains or trees or anything with a dark outline on a white surface kind of gives this haloing, which I try to avoid. So I'm avoiding it. I'm just leaving this at, say, 45. Already the sky is looking really good. I mean, let's compare. I mean, that's the original from the raw, and this is where we are right now after processing it. Alright, so let me go back to our image and let me see what else can I do. Okay, I'm going to jump over to the tone curve. I'm going to refine the sky a little bit more. I'm going to bring up the highlights further. So I go up here, pull it up, and I'm going to bring down the midtones. I'm going to bring down the shadows even more. And I kind of like, I really like the way the colors are now popping a little more than before, and kind of gives you this feeling of staring into outer space. And that's what this image is basically all about. I want my viewer to be wondered by what's out there in the universe. You know, I want him to feel, or her to feel, that they're standing on a planet looking out into the universe, looking out into outer space. And so this kind of, what I'm going for artistically is in tune with what I'm seeing right now. But a couple of things that I don't like instantly about this image is this excess orange. I guess that's because of light pollution from city lights or something from which are behind the mountains. Whatever that is, I'm not a big fan of how bright it is. It kind of creates an imbalance for me. So maybe I can, there are a couple of ways I can work with that. So I'm going to first go ahead and see if I can reduce the saturation of the oranges a little bit. So I reduce the oranges. Oh, it's too much, too much, too much. There you go. Well, that looks just about okay to me. And I might go ahead and increase their luminance, which is nothing but their brightness, up just about there. I think that's a little subdued now, a little better to my eye. Before I thought it was taking way too much attention, and I want the Milky Way to be the focus here. So that looks a lot better. And to add a touch of a touch of an artistic touch towards the mountains, I would like to show a little bit more of the mountains. Right now we are not doing that, so let me see if I can pull up the shadows and show more of the mountains. Pulling up the shadows, well, I can see a little bit more of the mountains now. Well, that looks decent. I can see a little bit of the blue here, a little bit of the layering that happens, but I want it to be seen a little more. Now I want this to affect only the mountains. I don't want what I'm going to do to affect the sky. So I'm going to make a graduated filter, and I'm just going to pull it over. Oh, that's a little too bright. So if you double tap on effect, it's supposed to null out any changes over here. Before, the exposure was a little too high, so I just double tap effect and it's back to 0. Alright, so I'm going to make a little filter here. I'm going to bump up the shadows for the filter so that it's pretty much affecting only the mountain areas. I'm also going to increase the exposure a little bit right over there. Looks good. And to my taste, the blue over there is a little too intense, so I might bring it down a tad bit. I just leave it right there. It's subtle. I like subtle changes. Well, it's actually subtle changes that makes an image. So I do that and leave it here. Well, I kind of like the look of this image now. It's looking a lot better than what it was in its raw form. But a couple of things more I could work is maybe I could bring out a little bit more of that green. So I would go to my saturation and pull up the greens a tad bit, and also the luminance of the green, I might bring it up a little bit, and that looks pretty good. I'm also going to try bringing up the blues so that we can get a little more detail from where the blue colors are. There you go. Oh, it's a little too much, so maybe bring it down. There you go. Now that looks a lot more like what I had envisioned in my head when I had taken this photograph. I hope this was informative, and I wish all of you the very best to try out these techniques with your photographs. Go ahead and have fun shooting the stars at night and coming back and having fun on Lightroom to make your images pop. Once again, I thank Custom SLR for giving me this opportunity to give you this small tutorial on how to process night skies. Well, thank you guys, and have a good one.